click. And looks like we are live. Hello, and thank you for joining us. Welcome to OreAni. Small crowd here today. And we're going to be discussing the end of the 2020 spring season. Let's go ahead and pick a title. It seems like a majority of everyone has watched, which is oh, let me introduce everyone. Like always, we have Jessica,
Hello.
Sean,
Yep.
myself, Vinny,
Thank you for having me.
and Mona, or Cherished.
Yo, what's up? It's been a while.
Yes, thank you for joining us. This is a special guest. I'd like to make a quick call out to Nick. Looks like his shift change has messed up his chances to join us for some OreAni, so we may have to change our time, or we'll figure something out for the next video. But be alert for that. He is one of our seasoned viewer or talkers and watches almost everything. So we do need
Yes,
his help.
he is our top talker for sure.
Let's go ahead and go to that. Let's go ahead and go to the title card. Fruit baskets. Woohoo! Second
My
season.
favorite.
So is it finally over, or is it like just part of a core? Like,
No, it's part of the core. So there's going to be there's still quite a bit of. They've only gotten to about. I feel like they've only gotten through like a quarter away the last part of the story. So there's still a lot to go there. But yeah. Is somebody going to
really good?
It's good. It's real good. It's so I don't know if anybody's seen the original Fruits
Yes.
Basket series. Yeah. So like they only did like the first half of the story, and then you never met anybody. You didn't meet Rin. You didn't meet the rooster, whose name I can't remember right now. Yeah, and you didn't really know who. You didn't really understand what the curse was. So this season was when you really began to understand the nature of the actual curse, and you really got to see the level of abuse and the psychological damage that these took. So it was a really great opening to this culmination of the climax. And I think next season is I'm going to cry every episode, I think.
Totally, yes.
Cried like 50% this season.
Yeah, that's pretty good for Fruits Basket.
So would you compare it like with Clanad, where you're like crying every few episodes or something like that?
As far as the amount of tears shed, yes. But as much as I love Clanad, I think that a lot of the tragedy was a bit on the contrived side, whereas Fruits Basket, it seems a bit more organic. But that's just my opinion.
Right. And it's not just more organic, it's more relatable to like actual situations that people confront and the actual like insecurities of abuse and trauma.
Mm-hmm.
The way to address trauma and abuse is it resonates with people who have experienced it. And the sense of isolation and the sense of self-doubt you have as a result of that abuse. And that's where I think it resonates to the point of making people really feel what the characters are feeling. And that's probably my favorite part about that series, is just that it is so good. It is so good at reminding people fears and making them empathize. So that's the reason for my tears, at least, because it always makes me think of stuff that I've experienced in the past, and it's very I can't say realistic because we're talking about people who turn into zodiac animals, but
it creates empathy. Is that even though that's a completely unrealistic situation, you can still empathize with the trauma and the lives of these people that have this curse. And that's the genius of it, is that there's no disconnect between the audience and the characters because of the fantastical elements in the story.
That's absolutely true and very well said.
Thank you.
So, it's still a highly recommended show, or?
Yes.
Absolutely. I would say that if you are into shoujo at all, if you are into even just slice of life and you like having your heartstrings pulled, like if that's something that you enjoy from anime and storytelling, it is a must watch because it is beautiful storytelling.
So,
I've seen the original show maybe like 10, 15 years ago, and I don't remember it very well. My impression of it of the time was eh. Like, should I try to? Is the new one way better? Like, should I try to watch that?
I think so. The original director, Taro Daiichi, did not like the manga. And so he kind of made it campy and comedic and leaned into more of that than the actual emotional side of the story.
Yeah, I originally watched it because it was a Daichi anime. I didn't think it was one of his good ones.
Because it wasn't the story for him, I think.
No, I don't. He didn't really, and he admitted to this, is that he didn't understand Toru as a character. And so it just went for comedy. And that's not to say that there weren't emotional points or episodes that made me cry. Episode 8 in particular gets me every time to this day. But as far as which one is the truer to the source material, the second one is definitely.
You can see, like the objective was just to really be true to the story and be true to the canon, because the pacing, everything about it is more in line with the original manga.
Okay.
So,
And they have added a few new scenes and things that just really elevate the work too. Is that they're not doing a panel by panel recreation of the manga, is that they are adding to it. But it's all turning out really, really well. You can tell everyone in the production from the ground up loves the original manga.
The original would be pretty old at this point, right? Is it a 90s manga?
Yeah, it started in 96, I want to say. 96 or 97. I don't remember what year it ended.
Oh,
But,
God.
So are they whipping out iPhones, or are they like true to the era?
They're
I
very
don't remember.
like I've noticed that it's like they definitely put it in the present, but they don't draw your attention to when this is all happening.
Okay.
And unlike Banana Fish and Parasite, moving the story to the present day doesn't completely upset or underscore or underwrite the main story. Is it all feels very natural that these kids would have cell phones, to the point where I didn't even think about it when you asked me that question.
Yep. I only remembered it because that was actually one thing that I was looking out for, because I was like, I wonder if they will.
So I remember watching it, the first, or the original, or however you want to say it, the first one, as well. And I remember a lot of my feelings were for Toru, and being very hopeful for her, cheering for her, and maybe also the I can't remember his name. Is it? I think it starts with K, but the cat guy.
Kyo.
Kyo. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
Also worrying about him. Is this new season pit more on other characters
I think it does a pretty good job of treating it like an ensemble cast, where I don't feel that any one character hasn't had enough screen time. So I think it's pretty well balanced between everybody. But that's again something that the original manga did really well, is it's really one of the only love triangles where I honestly couldn't choose between either of the love interests. And both of them were given enough time to develop as characters too.
Well,
I mean, if you like shoujo at all, you really have to watch this.
Yeah, this is a staple. Like, I mean, Fruits Basket as a franchise is kind of like the purest shoujo you can possibly find. It's like pure unadulterated shoujo. It's all about the feels. It is all of
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I like shoujo or not because I don't think I've seen or read too much. Like the only thing I could really think of was I think it was called a show called Skip Jump or something like that. Or
Oh, Skip Beat?
Skip Beat is awesome.
Skip Beat, yeah.
Skip Beat is awesome.
I remember loving that one.
Weird. Skip Beat is a little weird because she's kind of an anti-shoujo hero. It's kind of why I absolutely love her.
That's only shoujo manga I can actually remember reading a lot of it, or even the show. I loved the show and watched a lot of it. So
It's good. No, Toru's a very different character from I think that her name is also Kyo. I'm gonna have to go back. I haven't watched it in a long time, and I'm completely spacing on names today, and I have no idea why. But Kyoru is who that. No, so there's Toru, and then there's
Kyoko.
Kyoko. Thank you. So Toru is Fruits Basket, and Kyoko is in Skip Beats, and Toru is effectively Kyoko before she got screwed over. Toru is the truly trusting healing hands character, right? Like that's what makes her so powerful to that group, because she is healing, and on the contrary side, they have this person who has full control over them and is abusive. So there's really this there's really this dichotomy between those two characters, because if you ever read interviews with the author of Skip Beat, she always talks about how, like, she's never really been a big healing hands characters, and if you've ever been into healing hands characters, so she's not actually into characters like Toru. But if you've ever read any of her other like manga, like there was Tokyo Paradise and a few others, they tend to focus on these very like badass girls. So it's a different kind of shoujo.
Just real quick, I'd like to welcome Nick, which I'm surprised to see.
I woke up early.
And Albert. So this is our first discussion, our first title, which was Fruit Baskets. Have any of you seen it?
Not the new one, no. Or the old one, for that matter.
I see Albert unmuting himself, but I can't hear him. We'll see what he... Okay. So let's go ahead and we'll go ahead and move on to the next title. Fruit Baskets. Or that was Fruit Baskets. Now let's go to Ascendance of a Bookworm. This was my absolute favorite this season.
This is probably my favorite ever.
So, yeah, every Saturday I would wake up, pull up my tablet, and start watching this as I lay in bed trying to wake up fully. because this was the thing I was waiting for all week, and always had fun. It was a nice change to the titles we typically would, or it's a nice change from how it started, because at the beginning, the first season was all about her learning about her life, learning about where she lives, her family comes from, learning her passion, which was books, and trying to create different types of books. And now that at the end of that first season, she got into the church so that she could not only save her life, but also so she can get her hands on being able to read books. So the second season is all her doings with the church, and it was just so much fun to watch, and a very big change. Not only did we finally get to see her read a book, but we also got to join her journey on creating books, and we finally got to see that first scene that played out at the very beginning of the first episode and learn more about her before her life. And it's surprising how deep this series is and how it goes, but
Did anybody? So I don't know if this is because I am an consummate bibliophile. Like I am reading constantly. I've read all of these books like before the series was even announced. So did anybody else get this sense that when they were watching it, like this would probably be them if they ever had to deal with an isekai moment? Like their priority would be getting developing literacy in that society, because that's probably where my focus would have gone.
I can't say.
Yeah, like I of all the various products I could try to like bring from modern day into the past, or not past but other world, literacy may be important, but it's just not my thing.
Yeah, I think if anything, maybe introducing more games would be my type of thing. I've seen it some other isekai shows.
You're talking like board games, right? You're not
Yeah.
going to make the video games.
No, like Othello or chess or something like that, checkers. Like in some of the other isekai shows, when they first bring in an easy to learn game for the masses. But
Just kind of love how she makes money. Like
only because she has to, though.
but it was interesting, and it's also kind of jarring to me sometimes a little bit, because I forget that she's like only 7 or 8 years old in this story. But some of the things they have her do and the way they talk to her and stuff, kind of makes me think that she's just this little teen or something, but she isn't. And we also get to learn more of how nobles treat the commoners, as you call them, and how scary it can be. We did get a little bit of that at the end of the first season with the what was he, like the high priest or something like that, or
Yeah, I don't know. There's the head priest and the guy who's like above him.
yeah, the head priest. So yeah, but
yeah, the anime does that weird, because in the books it's the head bishop and the head priest. The head bishop is the asshole, and the head priest is the cool guy.
Yeah, no, the head priest was the good guy. I just meant the guy above him, so that's the bishop, who we don't really see often.
Yeah. I think they look like they're gonna do a new season, so you'll see more of them.
yeah. But after the season did end, I did check and see the books, and I was surprised with how they actually named them. Anyone else want to talk about the show?
Oh, like Miney? Because like I think in the books it's Mine, and in the anime it's almost spelled like Maine.
But not only that, but like here I'm trying to pull up the titles right now because it's like book one, part one, book one, or something like that. They released it on J Novel. Yeah, like here, Ascendance of the Book Form, part one, volume one, and then part two, volume two, part one, volume three, and then they go to the fourth book, which is part two, volume one. So it's really weird how they
Interesting.
released the titles in J Novel,
Mhm.
which is the one that's released in the light novels.
I think they're mainly following the same book structure as the original. I think that's how it is in Japanese as well.
So
So I actually kind of find it difficult to kind of compare season 2 to 1 because they covered very different topics. In season 1 you have, the setup of the world, the almost identity complex of the situation the protagonist found herself in, and just kind of like the isekai trope of, again, trying to actualize stuff you're used to into this other society, which we've seen done many times before. But that really wasn't the focus of season 2. They did bring some products to light, but not like at the pace that season 1 kind of covered. Season 2 really went into more of the world that they built and explored the very topics to give you a very good sense of how most everything else is kind of working at this point. And it's like for that reason, I actually kind of enjoyed season 1 a bit more because, like, I don't know if it's just the nuance of the world that it set up versus, here's how it all works. But it is a series that I do enjoy. It's just kind of interesting when, like, sometimes they you kind of like start watching a show for a certain reason, and then, like, season 2 comes along and that's not the main issue anymore.
Well, by season 2, mine has turned in fully acclimated into the society that she's pretty much stuck living in. She pretty much accepts that at that point that this is what it is and I gotta live with it. It does introduce more of the inner workings of the society more so than the outside perspective the mind brought in with all these crazy inventions. Can't wait for the season 3 to happen if it happens. I hope it does happen because
Pretty sure it's gonna
sounds like.
happen.
I mean, I guess it just goes by the popularity and what have you in Japan side. So, and looks like season 1 did fairly well enough to warrant a season 2. So, hopefully, it just continues that pace. It's not like they're lacking of materials to work on. So,
I think what I like, I mean, what I think really resonated with me, what I really, really liked about it is how they treated that family relationship and how they showed her grow as a person from this book obsessed person who, like, whenever she was, and you see this a little more in the book, but whenever she was, like, before she became mining, she was very distant from her family and everybody else around her because she lived in her books and she didn't really engage outside of that. And by virtue of not having books, she's forced to actually engage with her family. And she develops this deep love for them and this deep protectiveness for them that winds up motivating her as much, if not more, than her love for books. And so we see her grow so much as a character in that short amount of time just by virtue of not having books to remove her from engaging. That I really liked that about the story.
can we
So
expect the
Albert,
same kind of a Sorry.
Can you hear? Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
I can hear you.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry. I have a problem with Discord. So, Anyway, my thoughts are that it's interesting that the scope of a background society keeps expanding, right? So in the first one, it was mainly about her immediate family, her immediate social status, the commoners. The second part, get a little bit more about temple, which is a different class structure, different society than what the commoners are used to. They just view it as something they're not really a part of. They take part in ceremonies, they do worship in a sense, but they're not intimately tied into that religion, it seems like. So, in the third part that hopefully will get adapted, I don't know too much about it because I've mainly read the manga. The third part, it will be more about some of the noble societies. So these are things that were, each teased at the end of each part. And so the scope keeps expanding. And it's interesting that the author seems to have set this up from the beginning, as gradually introducing it in the different parts. So I believe there are 5 parts currently in the novel series. I haven't read it. The manga is, I think, on part 2 and part 3 currently. Yeah, I've enjoyed it. I do hope that they continue. It's a little nebulous on how Japan decides what gets greenlit. It still seems to be tied to the Blu-ray, physical object sales. So I don't really know. There's usually a drop season 1 to season 2. But it seems like you need to hit a certain volume of sales to be able to uh, greenlight a following season so that you can recoup your investment. And I obviously really dislike that system, but that seems to be the way things are. So I don't know how sales are going for the second part. That's it.
That's actually something I think is kind of interesting because like everyone I hear talks about the show, loves the show, and gives it really high praise, but it's like no one actually really goes out of the way to talk about it or recommend it a lot of the time. Like you always hear about My Hero and all those other shows, but this show is just as good. It has a lot of fun in it, but I don't ever hear anyone mention this title at all. It's just got me a little bit worried. But I hope it stays popular. And the other thing that you kind of mentioned about her character growth and how she's kind of caring more and more about other things is that I find it interesting that when she does start doing other things for other people, it's actually still tied to her books in a way.
Like that orphanage.
Yeah, like I thought that was funny when she was going to do that. She's like, "Why do you care about the orphans? Because I can't concentrate on my books if I have to worry about this." And so she starts doing that just so she could have a clear mind so she can read books. And I thought that was still kind of fun because it keeps her grounded in that everything she does is still because of her love for the books.
And also that moment reveals a bit about the moral difference between her world and this world, and how the head priest had a hard time grasping the ideas that she wants to reform the orphanage just because she's too bothered by the condition to read a book in peace. And there's scenes like that popping up that you kind of take certain concept of morality as given that it should be universal regardless of where you are from, but the society she's in clearly is not in agreement in many regards, which I find it interesting.
Mm. So let's go ahead and move on to the next title, which it looks like a lot of people have seen this. Arte, however you say it. What's this?
Arte.
I only watched a couple of episodes on this. I think it was on, what was it? Was it on Hulu? I think it might have been Hulu, something. And it's interesting, but it was kind of hard to get into. And yeah, I watched the first couple of episodes and I didn't really feel very engaged by it. I just wasn't really, it didn't suck me in. It was really hard to like the characters very much, even the protagonist. Like, I could respect her, but she was very, I won't say naive, because I don't necessarily have a problem with naive or innocent. It's more, it's not very relatable to me, I guess.
Could you compare her to another character that's somewhat similar, or that we may?
Just a very privileged girl who wants to do exactly what she wants and is willing to do anything to get it. And that part I can relate to and like. But I think I don't think that it just didn't feel very sincere to me. It seemed like she loved doing it, but it was hard to actually feel like it was her passion, I guess. Like, it almost felt like more of a hobby, and she just really liked doing it, and so she wanted to keep doing it. That was the feeling I got from it, but that may have changed over the course of the story, and I just didn't get the chance.
I also stopped watching this one, and which is a shame because how many anime are set in the Renaissance period?
Mhm.
So I was really hopeful that this one would be cool, but it just really leaned into all of the shoujo tropes. Is that it could have been anywhere, any when. It didn't really feel like it took place in the Renaissance because everybody was still acting like they were 21st century Japanese people. I mean, they were even doing the Japanese bowing in the Renaissance costumes, which I found unintentionally hilarious. But it just, stop me if you've heard this one. Girl wants to do a thing. Girl is told she can't do a thing. Eccentric person that is the gatekeeper to the thing gives her a task that would be impossible. Girl is able to complete the impossible task and gets to do the thing. And I've just seen that too many times for this to be engaging on that front.
Yeah, I can definitely, yeah, I kind of had that feeling. My big thing was, what is actually pushing her to do this? Because her answer isn't really a good answer to me.
No, it was just I love it, and I'm thinking, okay, so if this was really the Renaissance, you could spin it where I want to do something that will give me my independence, and as a female, that is almost impossible to do during this time, and have it look at it from that kind of perspective. But instead of I just want to do it because I like it.
So
That was my problem with it. It's because I could, like, in my head, I could think of so many good reasons as to why she would be willing to cut all of her hair off and pursue this goal in order to find her own identity and assert herself as a person and to be seen as a person and not just as a piece of property. Like, I could see that because there were women like that in the Renaissance.
Yeah, there were. And in fact, the person that I thought she was being modeled after went through incredible hardships in order to continue painting and doing what she was doing.
Mm-hmm.
But in this case, so she's living with this guy, her master, and her family's like, whatevs. I mean, they don't do really anything, at least to the point where I was. And for an unmarried woman in Renaissance Italy to move out of the house and shack up with a dude, I mean, my gosh, that would be unheard of and scandalous. And everybody just acts like it's normal. But then they give lip service to the whole, oh, well, it's really hard because she's a girl, just by saying, you can't do this because you're a girl. You can't do this because you're a girl. Over and over and over again. So
it says that she's trying to get into art. Like, what art? Like, what kind of art is it?
Painting mostly, but other
Mhm.
stuff along the way. Portrait painting is kind of like the mainstay of art, and I don't know if that time frame is the right answer, but at least in like what the scope of the show made me aware of.
Did you end up finishing it, Nick?
I did. So all I can say is I believe I can't make a push for you guys to watch it more. I did enjoy it, but like I would just feel that it didn't do anything worthwhile to say, oh, watch it anyway. But
Mhm.
it was a lot about, like her just kind of learning the trade. So, her mentor would give her tasks, would point out perspectives that he likes to think from to kind of influence not her art, but just her growth as an artist. And what really kind of started happening around the halfway point was it started focusing on other aspects of drama with society more so than just art. There was a few episodes dedicated to somebody else that her master or her teacher was familiar with going through a hardship that Arte wanted to do something about. So she kind of had to ask, like, what, like, if I wanted to help this person, what can I be doing? And she actually learns a lot from people around her and benefits the person's current ordeal. And I was like, oh, well, that's kind of nice. And then, like, immediately after that, she catches the eye of, like, a noble, not a noble, I don't know if noble's the right word, but from Vince, who wants her to become a tutor to his niece, who's having, let's just say, a rough time with her family ordeal. So she kind of is conflicted about, not pursuing art and going to become a tutor for this girl who, while she will still be practicing art, just not as like under her master or anything. And she's really kind of like rather conflicted with what to do. And I just kind of appreciated that arc a lot more because when you introduce new characters and, a lot more, and you're given like the backstory to what their issue is, how it became that way, and how Arte will kind of come in and as a stranger kind of like still kind of follow a moral guideline to improve the situation as a whole, because she could relate to what the young girl was going through. And by the end, she still has, say, choices ahead of her. Does she want to stay here and pursue this career, go back to learn more under her master? And I just enjoyed kind of how it ended, because one thing I will kind of spoil is just to say that when she got back, her master was currently sick with something and bedridden, but he was given a task to paint this really big mural on this guy's like ceiling, and he wanted it done by Easter, which was like a week away, but it was like only like a third or a fourth of the way painted. So she wants to take over this task because it's like from her workshop. So she does so, but like at the point where it's getting like halfway through, she's only gotten up to like maybe half the painting done. There's only like 3 days left. She knows she'll take at least 5 days to finish it. And they do this kind of moment where everybody that she's interacted in that city she's from kind of comes together in a way that they've done in a prior episode and just kind of get the task done. And this is the finale episode at this point. It was kind of nice that while I guess her mentor like designed all the characters on the ceiling, I don't know if she got to overtake the one at the edges or anything, because she's like, oh yeah, all the ones on the edges were people who were like important to me. Like, so, like people right out of her life that are just like in this dude's ceiling. And for a final episode, it's like really cool because you know about a lot of the characters in the backstory at this point. But like a part of me wondered, like is the guy who like commissioned this thing okay with this? That you just like put everyone you cared about on his ceiling? But
So my question, I guess, is for Jessica. Based on how she described it, and even to the hair cutting, would you kind of say that the better show would be probably like a Akagami no Shirayuki Hime?
You know, that one didn't click with me because I really, really liked the characters in that story. I thought they were well written and well rounded, but I didn't feel that the story was worthy of them. Where it again, it just fell back on a lot of tropes. She gets kidnapped like 50 times. So I don't think, okay, if you really want to look at it, get down to brass tacks, it probably is better than Arte, but it still has some problems. And my main problem with Arte is that this could have been about a woman wanting to play for the male baseball team or something, and it would be the exact same story and plot, is that Arte has no repercussions for wanting to pursue this career other than the men around her go, well, you can't do it because you're a girl, and might hurt her feelings. Whereas in that time period, there were very serious repercussions for women who did not toe the line. And I think that Arte does a complete disservice to that struggle.
But to address something that I forgot to touch upon, this show actually, like, while probably a shoujo show, it really didn't deal with romance a whole lot. There like was like an episode where she was like acknowledging her reaction to nearby men who she was growing close to, and she was kind of having to come to terms with that and follow the advice of someone she looked up to. But other than that, I was like looking at this show as, oh, like I've seen like 2 to 3 characters at this point who are going to be like, you know, the reverse harem like characters to who this character will probably end up with. And it really didn't do that at all, because even with, like, as you brought up, the red-haired Snow White story, she in that story, there's like probably 3-ish characters who are like chasing after her, and she's like, you know, it's the reverse harem thing. But that really didn't end up coming in Arte. Like, it is not really a reverse harem show. And I was, I guess, a little like not taken aback by that, but I at least forgot to bring it up as like an important thing about the show that is Arte. I was like, oh wow, it's actually not a reverse harem show. Well, that's kind of interesting.
You know, actually, just because of how often they are and with the look, I thought it was an isekai, but I guess not. Let's go ahead and move on to our next title, which is another, I think, not so good title, but an isekai as well, or an isekai. The Eighth Son, are you kidding me? Hachi nante sora wa nani? Or sorry, sora wa nai desu ka? Desho? I can't
The
speak.
most isekai show of the season.
Yes. This is Albert's show. His beloved show, Isekais. Also ranked pretty high in the popularity on Crunchyroll, surprisingly. I don't know how they work that popularity list, but it's like in the top 10.
It's all the more reason not to trust that poll.
As I said, I've read some of the manga. I think I read even some of the web novel. So when I started watching the show, it was very different from the sources that I've gotten it from. So I had to take it and watch it as its own original thing, and even watching it as its own original type of show, it wasn't that great. It was just your mediocre isekai. There's so many other shows that are even better. Like I even kind of want to say that I would watch the smartphone anime and recommend that over this one.
Oh God. It's perfectly mediocre isekai show. That's what
I
it
thought you were
was.
gonna go with that other like more recent one with the, the bunny girl and stuff.
Oh, Arifureta.
Whatever that thing was called.
Arifureta
Yeah,
or something.
Arifureta.
Yeah, I actually love that one. Or not the anime, but the light novel. So I don't like trash talking it because I like at least the source a lot. But yeah, the show, it's he gets his harem. He's an overpowered person. He's I guess I don't know if it's reborn or whatever, but he gets his past memory life at the age of 5 or something like that, right? And then he starts trying to learn what's going on with the world, and learns that there's magic, and then starts trying to become stronger at magic, and eventually finds a teacher that teaches him and makes him super OP. But because he's the 8th son, there's no way he's going to be able to stay in that area, in that land. So he starts preparing ahead of time to become an adventurer, to head out there to make his own life, to make his own rewards or whatever. But it's just so dumb how it goes about it, and the characters he ends up meeting, picking up, and they all, as he gets more recognition, defeating a dragon and such, the girls start trying to go for him even more, and eventually he meets another. It's your typical weird harem isekai show.
Well, because the series runs like one of those mobile games where all you have to do is turn it on and log in and let it just build up the level for you kind of thing. He just racks up title after title, wealth after wealth, and girls after girl. It's almost as if whoever wrote that isekai novel, just threw in all the components that makes isekai harem series and realized that, oh, it looks just like everything else. Let's do the Curb as an 8th son. For all it matters, he could be the 3rd son and the outcome would have been just the same.
Yeah. And
The title wouldn't have been as catchy.
The thing I didn't like about it, because it seemed like he was supposed to be super overpowered, that he was the strongest. Even like the teacher he learned from was considered one of the strongest mages, and that this kid is supposed to have more capacity to become even stronger. But then as you go through, you find out that there's other people that are even stronger or can still grow as well. So you're like, so he's not the only OP ones, but I don't know, there's no characters that I can just say I like this character, except for maybe the priestess or whatever her name is that becomes his fiance. Everyone else, I just couldn't find myself liking or caring about. Maybe his friend that he becomes his knight or whatever, I can kind of back him and say he had a pretty good arc, and he had a pretty good thing going on. But as for anyone else, I just didn't really care too much, and it was hard to really enjoy this.
Only thing I really liked about that show is the ending music, and that's about it.
Well, I can't remember the ending.
I mean, music itself is generic in itself. Just the only reason I liked it is because of the singer who sang the song, and she just happens to be one of my favorite.
Yeah, I don't know. I did watch the show all the way through, and I kind of had a similar feeling of, the show wasn't necessarily trying to cover like exactly how OP the character was in this world. It followed a narrative that's, probably somewhat true to the world they created, but like, I don't know. I watched it all, but like at the end of it all, it's like I don't really feel for any of the characters. Probably because it didn't have that like power scaling stuff. It's just it didn't really catch on like with an action vibe or anything. It's like I watched it, but I just feel like it's pretty normal.
And it seemed a lot of the big fights or action scenes were kind of, they animated a bit of it, but it's like a lot of it was montage, or they would show snippets of it. Like even when he went to fight the two land dragons with the other people, right? I don't really even remember there really being a battle. I just remember them showing the tint, the worry of what could be happening, but of course you weren't worried because he's the main character. Nothing's going to happen to him. But we didn't even really. I don't even really remember battle scenes being really outstanding, or if there were any battle scenes that were, except for near the end. But even then, it was just this tunnel of just skeletons or whatever those things were, just walking down, and then blasting through it. And even then, it went kind of through a montage thing because there were so many levels, and they went through so many that it's like they didn't really care about the action.
So I watched episode 1, like first half, and dropped it, right? Then this last couple of months on YouTube, things just kept popping up like, hey, you should watch this. And there was a compilation of each episode down to like 3 minutes. I watched it, and I pretty much got everything I needed out of it. It was pretty much what I was expected it was going to be, right? The power leveling and his harem and storyline, which was really, really thin. So yeah, I don't feel like I wasted my time at all.
There's
I got
cliff notes for
you guys
anime.
got out of it in 3 minutes.
Tell me more about this Cliff Notes for anime.
You can watch each anime episode in 3 minutes.
Oh.
Watch a lot more anime if that were true.
Yeah, so highly recommend. Watch it. That's what Crunchyroll says.
Oh, geez. That's like surprising. Oh, Crunchyroll. I was about to say because like it's not that well rated on, like listing sites. So it would be interesting as to why Crunchyroll is like trying to push something that didn't resonate well with the people. Is all I'm gonna say.
Okay. Well, let's go to this next title, which I know some of us are very curious about, but then again, kind of already have their own opinion about it, which is the how do you say that? Gleipnir?
Gleipnir.
Gleipnir? I don't know. Either the title's too long or just some weird thing that I can't read.
Oh.
So, like, who actually watched this? Was it just Nick, the only one that watched all of it, and everyone else quit partway?
Yeah.
Last episode today, man.
Wow. Yeah, I bailed like episode 5 or 6 or so.
I'm on episode 5, I believe.
That's where I am too.
I quit up to 2.
I was supposed to watch 2, but I didn't.
So Nick, was it worth pressing on regardless?
For me, it was. I can't answer for a lot of other people or not. I was actually rather impressed by its storytelling because as I said in like the early review, it took up to like episodes 5 or 4 or something to even be able to like put a synopsis on the show, because you were normally I hate whenever a show comes out and they start with like a character with amnesia and they have this like non-linear storytelling. I tend to go, man, it would have been so much better if they just started like linearly to get you into what happened to the character to pursue watching. And that didn't happen here. I was rather impressed by my, you know, when I would like kind of explain this show to people, saying, "Oh, I'm watching this one thing, right?" And like how you didn't even know how the main character ended up the way he did until multiple episodes in. And then like on top of that, you have spoiler, just another character who again altered his memories, hence the sense of amnesia. So once that was explained, it had further storytelling elements into the background drama of, his origin story in a sense. Like, what was like how did you get to that way? What was the danger of letting things progress further without having to, say, alter your memories? And I just liked the story because I kind of had to say to a coworker at one point where, like, you find this coin that's actually like, say, a compressed alien. You take it to this guy who's like collecting them because it's like his, fellow alien friends or whatever. And he gives you like this bottle that like you drink, right? And it like biologically like X-Men alters you to your own will, like, advanced alien tech stuff here. So like when this is kind of introduced in society, it doesn't really like have like the My Hero Academia kind of angle where like, oh, anyone's just getting any power that, well, in this case, that they wanted. But it has this interesting story that I really just kind of got behind, and I like how these things were creeping up in society as people were gaining superpowers. Like
I wanted to like the story, and I did actually like how you found the coin of power, and then you had to take it to this vending machine, like on the side of the road down the highway. It's kind of like a David Lynch Twin Peaks kind of thing. You know how he plays on like Americana and sort of imbues it with like this mysticism. Like Gleipnir was kind of doing that with its I don't know, Japanicana. Where you have to like go to this like busted vending machine, and then it gives you the object of power or something. Like I Gleipnir has cool ideas in it like that, but the show itself is just like fucking stupid.
I couldn't agree more. Is that the premise is really interesting, and that's why I was disappointed. Is the execution leaves something to be desired. So I'm kind of curious about the manga. Has anyone read it? No.
No, I heard it's super bad, but I have not read it.
Okay, never mind.
I will say that, like, I think one of the early draws into the show was like this moment of really nice action in the front that like anyone could like recognize, but then it kind of goes away from that, right? Like close quarters, fast paced combat isn't this show's focus. It did kind of have another scene like close to the finale episode, but like not to like the depth that the first episode had. I did kind of like there was this one random like moment where it had a lot of tension, where like characters were our protagonist and his friends were overwhelmed by this other group that was hunting a bunch of coins, and they were given like an ultimatum of having to pick one member amongst themselves to kind of like sacrifice, and they were kind of given time to do so. And a lot of the characters kind of felt trapped, right? They're like, oh, we're like going to have to pick someone, or we're all just going to have to try to get away, or we're all going to go down. And it's moments like that where like a character kind of comes up with a solution. She's had the solution the whole time, is just letting things play out, then goes to execute the solution. And I've always enjoyed shows where it's like, this character is, I wouldn't say like down to earth, but just has an escape plan, has ideas, can always like execute at any moment, and then it just, not that it like imparts anything to the viewer, because like when superpowers are involved, well, darn, I can't rely on those. But I just always appreciated like those manga moments where it's like, oh, here's the plot twist where we get away, and I don't know, I always felt like imparted with something whenever that happens. And I knew I'd find that in this show, and I did, so.
The main character kind of struck me as like a Shinji without substance. Just like this audience surrogate. Like, does he ever become interesting, or is he just still that dude, like, throughout the whole thing?
Honestly, I can't say if he becomes interesting or not, because again, he was, I don't know if always that way was the right word, or is the way he is, like, as a result of his memory being redacted from himself, like not by himself, by someone else.
So is there some moment where he gets his memory back and he transforms?
There's a moment where a character, like, inside his costume, like, spoiler here, there's an extra more further state you can go to when you and the mind of the person you're with synchronize and have this one goal. Then the true power awakens, and you like truly become one, and like that was a big power scale moment for the show.
So, but like when the sync ratio goes to 100.
Afterwards, the character was like, "Yo, when my mind was melded with him, it was like I was reading one of those classified documents where like everything was obviously blotted out. Like I could tell what was going on. I could see why he might not know." But she kind of goes down this path as to, what is going on with this dude's memories, and they did kind of do that in a few episodes, not like very well. It's a very like a single scene that is supposed to explain a whole lot. But during that time, he starts getting pieces of his memory back, or like he starts kind of like in Parasite, where the character who, as he's going through these combats, becomes a little bit, let's just say, I don't know if stronger is kind of the word, but he also becomes a bit desensitized as all this like horrific combat is happening in front of him. The protagonist of this show does go through like that desensitization, where he's no longer like this wimpy kind of kid who doesn't want to do anything, but he's just this person whose like emotion has been somewhat drained from him, and he's willing, more like not willing, but at least accepting of getting like down to the gritty with the power that he's got. But that's not like the showcase of this show.
To get a new haircut where the hair like swoops over one of his eyes.
Nope.
Okay.
But he does have the scar in his neck for a while, and then it just goes away.
Yeah, I guess to expound on why the show sucks is a lot of episodes within the first 5 minutes will just have a completely random panty shot in it. Like it's
Yeah.
Like I would love to watch a version of Gleipnir that isn't cheap and doesn't like shortchange itself. So I feel like there's a good version of it that could be written, but this ain't it. I heard some very bad, they introduce more female characters and some very bad things happen to those female characters.
I'd say one of those female characters is the very bad things.
Yeah,
I mean,
I haven't seen the rest
can
of it,
see
so
where
I
you're
don't know.
coming from, and like the amount of service in this show is like a reason to say not recommended to a lot of people. But I've always been indifferent to that. Like, I can see where people are coming from and why it's like an important acknowledgement, but I don't personally put down a show just because it has service. Like that's just me, but I can understand it.
Yeah, for me, it's not like an offense thing. It's more like a signaling thing. It's like we're signaling that the show doesn't have much substance, so here's a panty shot because this is what we got. You know,
I can see that.
I feel like I've already seen this kind of story, like, partially in Evangelion, but mostly in like Devilman Crybaby, where the random boy gets like terrifying powers and like goes on this like power trip.
I could almost say I think that's just supposed to be a draw for maybe newcomers to the show, because like that's the kind of thing that happens, and it's like, oh, like I can't let say my parental guardian figure know I'm kind of watching the show or whatever, and it just gives you this. it instills this sense that, like, I've long since become desensitized to even like caring about what anime is doing, but because it has that, like, I don't want to say mature element, because it's more, I guess it's just the concept of like sex sells, right? Like you put that in there, either people are going to like it, or
yeah, it's
going
very
to
adolescent
give
show.
yeah, like it's going to
Like-
give this sense that this is not for kids, or
Like the 13-year-old me would have watched the whole thing for sure.
Totally same. In the opening scene, for the the opener, there's a picture of the main character who's down on his knees and he's clutching his hair and screaming really loud. Man, if I was 13 or 14, I would eat that crap up
Yeah,
so much.
be editing that AMV.
Edgelord.
Yeah, but now that I'm not 13, I like my favorite kinds of anime are things that are pulpy but do interesting things with pulp. And it just seems to me that Gleipnir is just the pulp.
I understand.
Is that all for this title, or?
Yep.
All right.
Well, I'm glad someone talked about Gleipnir.
Yeah, me too. Thanks for watching it for us, Nick.
Woo.
Let's go to another great title,
Anytime, guys.
The Tower of God.
Okay, I'm out.
You didn't take one for this team for this one?
I was
Nope.
going to. I really, because I wanted to like this so bad. And I thought, you know what? I'll take one for the team, because it's about time I did. But I couldn't do it. I just couldn't.
Oh, come on. After all the ones that I've taken for the team?
Oh,
I'm kidding.
sorry. I'm just not, my otaku level is not as high as yours.
I wonder if we should do a rotation. Like every season, there's one show that someone's got to take for the team.
I mean, I watched it, the whole thing.
Oh,
Well, there you go.
What the hell is this show? Like, I've only seen one episode, and they do like a trial, and the boy pulls a sword from the stone, and then he gets thrown into PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. Like, it just turns into a battle royale.
Mhm.
What's the rest of the show? Is it like a death game, or is it a series of different death games, or?
So it's really hard to describe for one. So
So the premise is they're ascending some tower, right? And there's a trial on each floor or something like that?
seems that way, but I don't know how many levels there are. None of it is really well explained, which in some sense is you don't want the info dump at the very beginning telling you everything about setting and the people and telling you things you should know about. It's a little bit more immersive in that sense, but it is based on a webtoon. I haven't read the webtoon. The art style is different, I guess, because it was adapted by a different company, and it quickly goes into some sort of school/tournament mode. So
Cool.
You get your people that have passed the initial test, the battle royale part. Then next thing you know, they're divided into groups by their potential ability to do things. There's a group that's called Wave, which is people that can, apparently the entire tower, there is a substance called the water, God's water, or water of God, or something like that, Shinsu, that permeates everything, and your ability to manipulate that will come in handy, and you need to be able to not succumb to it. So those who control Shinsu are the wave, the controllers. It's now becomes kind of video gamey. There's this group called the Spears, who are supposed to, I forget exactly what, but there are all these classifications. So then you get trained in that application of whatever you're supposed to be. And then there's kind of a team battle that happens later. I'm watching this in the middle section going, I don't know what it's supposed to do. But each episode, there's something revealed about each of the characters, and I'm not entirely sure if I enjoyed. I actually enjoyed that part a lot more. There's a lot of character development. The problem is, it doesn't affect the main story. It doesn't affect how the other characters perceive that particular character that had a backstory revealed. So it's only to you, the viewer, that it makes sense that this character is behaving in this way because you know their backstory. But the other characters in the story are like, what the hell is going on with him? Why is he behaving this way? I have a trouble when plot points, characters' backstories are revealed and it has no impact on the other characters. So it was a series of interesting character building moments followed up by unsatisfactory conclusions to each of their character arcs. Some of them have not fallen off of the climb, the tower's top, which will grant you your wishes. It's interesting in the sense that this is kind of a new way for anime to be made, I guess, because Crunchyroll is part producing. They put up the money. They're part producing. It's not based on a Japanese property. It's a webtoon, which is basically manhwa. It's the manhwa designed for the web. So in that case, I think it's interesting to look at. And the last two episodes I actually enjoyed quite a bit because of a certain character's the plot twist, right? The big plot twist that happens. And I found a boring character to all of a sudden become very interesting. By the way, the main character is still boring. So, it's a hard one to recommend, but I think because it holds enough interest, I probably will pick up season 2 when it does get greenlit. I'm not sure what the status is, but there are other webtoons that are becoming adapted to the anime platform. So this is the very first of them. So some historic significance, perhaps, if it goes well. And it did not go on hiatus because of whatever production schedule or production methods that they used. Unlike many others that had to delay or postpone episodes, it was coming out weekly. I did not really see a drop in quality. There were interesting battles that were happening on each episode, followed by character development and action. So, yeah, but overall, the middle arc is really slow. Was one character that decided to leave on her own. I thought her story was interesting and her character was interesting because of that, but now she's left, so you don't get to see her. And the last two episodes I found really interesting.
Is Webtoon a professional platform for comics, or is it more amateurish stuff?
Anyone can post to Webtoons, I believe.
Yeah, I think it's a mix of the two, really.
It's a platform where you can post your work, and if it picks up enough interest, it gets ranked higher. You get more followers. And Tower of God was definitely supposed to be on the top tiers. This next season, we're getting high school, God of High School. I think it's another high school battle thing with a Korean twist. That's also coming. I believe there's a couple others in the works now. So
Yeah, I saw a trailer for something I'm really hoping to see, but I don't know if it's real, which is solo leveling, which
I
would be
don't know.
awesome. That's an awesome
Could have
manga.
probably been like a troll trailer. I mean, I'm not on the news as to like I tend to be pleasantly surprised by what's coming out like next season, so I don't personally look into stuff being okay. But I just kind of think that if that got approved, you would have definitely heard about it on like some mainstream channel, and it wouldn't be like a fringe. Oh, I think it's happening. Maybe
But
that's just what I feel.
I will say
I'm
this: that the Tower of God. I I watched I think 3 or 4 episodes, and then I decided to read the webtoons comic, and then after reading the whole first chapter or arc and started the second one, I lost interest really fast and just figured that I wasn't gonna deal with the show anymore.
this can be kind of a weird question, but like, was the fantasy world of Tower of God interesting? Like, did it feel like there was a logic kind of underlying all of it, or what was it
So
just like we're making some crap up, just to suit whatever we want to do in any particular moment?
It was the latter. At least
Okay.
that was kind of how I felt watching
Yeah.
it.
so
Because I had no sense of anything, where they were in relationship to the tower, what the other countries are, what the kingdom is that all these princesses are from running around. And I can handle quite a bit of mysterious or mystery in a story, but this just felt not like it was holding back on purpose, but that it was holding back because they hadn't even decided those things when they were writing it.
Hmm.
So
so this is an ongoing manga. It's been going on for a long time. I'm actually out reading through it again. I was way far in, and then I stopped for a long time, and now I'm just rereading from the start of the second season on.
so
They tend. I think that's a deliberate choice, actually, by the author, because while there is an implied world outside of the tower, they want the world of the story to be the tower. So they don't want to distract you into thinking about things that might be happening outside of the tower. They want to keep you fully centralized in there because there is so much going on in the tower at any given time later on in the story that trying to take your mind out of it is going to completely it's like completely entering a different world. You're completely entering a different story. It's no longer the same story if you take it out of the tower. And I think that was kind of a conscious choice on the author's part, because you never really get an idea of like so like the princesses of Jihad. Jihad is the king of the tower, right? He rules over the tower, and by ruling over the tower, it's implied that he rules over the world. And similarly, these princesses are selected by the king as people who have proven themselves by climbing the tower, and that is how they have developed their status. And there are entire hierarchies around, like almost a feudal system within the tower. And it's implied that all of that is reflected in the world outside. But anybody who's in the world outside doesn't matter. They're irrelevant to the story.
and I don't know if this is just what I got from reading the books, but it seems that everything we've watched or the anime in the first arc actually isn't the tower. It's the qualifications to be able to climb the tower.
Right, right, and that's what I mean is that they are trying to have it both ways. Where the tower is all important. Well, if the tower is all important, then where the heck are we?
I think we're between the tower and the world.
Right, but is it metaphysical? Because
No.
that was another thing that wasn't communicated very clearly. Is this place that they are now, is that even in the realm of the mundane anymore?
So they say it. I mean, at least when I was reading, they say it's the first floor of the tower, and they refer to it repeatedly as the first floor where Kun and Bam met.
Mm-hmm.
So they're in the tower. It's just the first floor of the tower, and the entire story is getting past the first floor so they can continue to climb.
Does that mean there's going to be 99 seasons, or?
But a tower ain't one.
So I'm not going to give any spoilers.
Okay. It ends in season 14 when they fight Heathcliff. It just like ends suddenly.
Nah, the main character dies, but then comes back with the night patch. Like other typical animes. I'm just kidding. Let's go
There's
ahead and
an
go
iPad?
on to the... Huh?
No, they're just talking about tropes.
Let's go to the next title. Ta-da! Can anyone read that? That's super long.
I don't
Nope.
know where I'm supposed to be looking.
Yeah, I mean,
We don't see the overlay,
Oh, yeah. Okay.
but I'm gonna guess you're talking about Ultimate Game. Blah
Yeah.
blah 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 blah
My
blah.
life as a villain
Jojo?
all routes lead to doom. Dun dun dun. This was the second show I watched after the Ascendance of a Bookworm. And it ended okay. I can't say I was disappointed. I wasn't like thrilled, but overall it was a fun journey, and we actually got to see her go through this game and see the end of the route and see if it led to doom. I don't know how you're all into spoilers or who's actually seen this.
I haven't finished it yet, but I intend to.
I've seen like 5 and then I stopped. So I just feel like I had my fill, and I guess I want to watch a show that's like more conflict driven.
I get you.
That's fair.
It's very cute.
It is. It's delightful.
Yes.
I like that even though it does play around with otome game tropes, that the characters are actually characters instead of viewer stand-ins. Thought that was pretty cool.
I just love their roundtable discussions.
Oh my gosh.
That's probably the thing I hated the most. I'm sorry.
Oh, really?
I'm sorry.
I had fun.
Every time one of those scenes came around, I kind of rolled my eyes and went, "Oh, get this over with already."
I don't know. I think I could watch a whole series just like that.
Oh no, I couldn't. That is not one for the team I'd be taking.
How about we replace those things with big slabs that say Sele? They're all in a circle.
Oh,
Just kidding.
okay.
It was
The
fun.
roundtable discussion was interesting in that at least in the manga that I read, and she becomes a teenager and goes to the academy. They reflect her. They don't remain little girls. But in the anime, they decide to leave them as little girls, which is kind of funny in some sense.
I actually thought from the artwork that I know what you're saying, because that had sense. I thought that at one point, but I thought I looked at it at another point, and it seemed like they were just some kind of fork of chibi and actually not kids.
That's
But
what
I
I
don't know.
thought too.
Yeah, that's what.
Yeah,
that
like,
was my impression.
I
too.
got multiple senses from it. Like, I think maybe even like one scene to another might have been the difference or something.
Well, the actual artwork in the manga, it's her adult or teenage version of her in a round table discussing things. Take it as you will, whether it's just chibi form or whether it's her, kid form, because she's kind of dumb.
See, that's what I loved about it, because when they went to the table, even her smarter self wasn't really that smart because it's supposed to represent her, right? So
Yeah, exactly.
that made it really funny because she's all given all this wisdom, but it's not really wisdom.
Well, it almost seems like she's overly bound by the game. It's like she's not like acknowledging the reality in front of her, just, oh, this is like the game, so like things are proceeding as per the game, and is not like again, like that's the sense that I got from this show that kind of set me off the most. Like I still enjoyed it. I liked how it ended. I did enjoy the show, but like I'm actually kind of surprised to hear some people like the character as much as they do, because like when you have like the oblivious male character, it's horrible, but the oblivious female and it's like a draw point. It's like what? What? But yeah, like essentially in the whole story, she's so completely bound by like the walkthrough of the game that things just have to be going according to the walkthrough. And like, the relationships that I've developed as such mean I don't want to say nothing, but like they didn't exist like in her own head. Because like even at the end of the episode, she's like, "Yo, main protagonist of this video game, who you into? Like, what's one of these guys? Like, I've been watching this whole time. Which one?" And that to me was like, I just think that the story could have been better if they weren't so bound by it. But it was still an enjoyable story, and I did, like it. It just, I don't know. There were definite elements that I was like,
Yeah, but I mean, they're playing on the tropes that are in
Yeah.
actual Otome games, right?
understand.
So it's kind of a meta commentary.
Mhm.
I find that hilarious. So
Hmm.
I'm not sure if this was the very first one of these series of light novels that went around the villainous route. So there are many, many, many other light novels where the main character is isekai and realizes, she is villainous, or she is not the main character. She's the side character or the friend.
Mhm.
So there's a series of novels that follow that trope. I'm actually reading a manga that where the exact thing Katerina tries to avoid happens. So in that one, what was the title? I forget. She gets exiled, and so the story starts after her exile. Right?
Mhm.
There's another one where she's reborn as a villainess and decides the only way to actually survive is to become OP with magic. Or there's another one where someone's reborn as a villainess and decides, okay, what I need to do is actually just go and talk to the Demon King, whom I'm supposed to eventually ally with anyway, and betray the party. So I'll do that beforehand and convince him to become a good guy.
Mhm.
Crazy tropes like that. So it all depends. But I think this is one of the first that went the isekai route of not the main character, therefore it's funny. Yes, it is funny because it's a clueless character. She's clued in, but is also clueless as to not live in world. She's acknowledging she's living in a world of the game. She can't get her head beyond that because she's dumb.
Mhm.
That's funny.
I do like the tropes that they play on and make fun of. Like, even when it showed like her past life, when she runs out of the house, I was laughing when the mother's like yelling at her, "At least take bread," when she's running with the food in her mouth.
I just like that the entire premise of the story is her stealing flags from every single man in the
Yeah.
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 That was the best part for me. It's like the entire story is premised on her stealing their flags, and it's great.
And the thing is that if you try and go for the harem route before you've done the individual routes, you're going to get a bad ending guaranteed. Not that I would know from experience or anything. A friend told me once. Yeah.
It's true.
I don't know. The appeal for me is just how guileless Katerina is that she ends up being completely what the other characters need her to be at the exact right time that they need her to be that. And that she's not malicious or conniving or anything. She's just trying to do her best and she inadvertently makes friends with everyone.
I never actually saw her as stupid or a bimbo, because she actually said, like, she has some very clear insights on their characters, and she has she knows what their damage is, and she knows how to address it. And she's very emotionally intelligent. She does go down wrong roads and has absolutely no self-awareness. So I think that's a little bit different from actually being stupid per se, because she does have a kind of intelligence that is very rarely appreciated as a kind of intelligence, I guess.
So I could almost absolutely appreciate her love for desserts till it came to that like storybook thing.
I love that episode.
That was a great episode, though. That was, I can't remember if that was in the books. I don't think so.
I don't think it was. My husband's been reading the books actually, and he was all upset that this wasn't in the books. Blah blah blah.
I didn't think it was. I was like, did I skip this one? Did this happen? But I loved that story. I just thought it was so cute, and I thought it was a nice little filler episode for it. Highlighted each of their relationships, and I like the way. And I think the reason that they did that is because in the books there are these full vignettes of each character's story, and like their way of telling the story, or their way of like, their story with Katarina, like their origin story with Katarina. They each get a chance to tell it from their own perspective, and you don't really get to see that in the show so much. So I think that they threw that episode in to kind of bring that element to it. Like, what are the real feelings about Katarina that she doesn't actually see?
About the dungeon crawl episode, was that also in the books? It wasn't in the manga.
No.
According to my hubby, no, it was not.
Okay, so yeah, that was kind of the feeling that I got. Those middle 3 episodes were more original, or adapted little outtakes, right? And the light novel and the manga like endings, they took that and made an episode out of it to add out the 12 episodes, I guess.
Yeah, the pacing was pretty fast in that one, actually, compared to the books. I feel like, I mean, granted, because, well, yeah, it took a couple of books for them to resolve the first story. So, but again, a lot of that was the kind of the retelling of the stories by the other characters. So there was a lot of that.
So, like, weird question. Assuming that this was going like the Otome game route, and like she got the harem ending, is this a harem ending or a reverse harem ending or some kind of mix?
Isn't it both? It's like
it's both, yeah.
She literally
make a new term for the series. Gosh darn it!
She managed to hit every achievement in the game in the same playthrough.
Mm-hmm. Which normally you can't do, because typically one of the routes is locked until you complete the others.
Yep. I'm so glad there's somebody else here who has played Otome games. I was so excited.
But I mean, they got, well, I won't spoil the ending because Jessica's still watching, right? But
yeah, I'm behind.
I think it was a satisfying conclusion to the whole thing. I'm not sure I need to watch any more of it. To tell you the truth, like I said, I think there are other ways to play around with the trope. So, despite its popularity, I don't really intend to watch.
Or like go into any of the other series you brought up that exist.
Sure, they'll eventually get adapted because we're still on the isekai trend.
I actually didn't like. It's not that I didn't like the rest of the series, but I feel like the rest of the series lacks the same charm as the first arc, the first main story of the full game. So once it gets past that part, it's kind of just another isekai, and just with the same characters, and so you don't get the same sense of the playthrough that kind of made this so novel and made this so fun.
Well, like I still at least appreciate, like I was a little bewildered, but like not to hold it against this show, but like when they did that whole sequence where she was like, let's just say trapped by dark magic, how you had that like one character who was like from her world somehow also in this world. So it's like I wasn't sure how to like interpret that, but like it was still an enjoyable show. But I'm like, what is going on here?
I feel like everybody kind of has their own interpretation of what reincarnation looks like in terms of like the space-time continuum. And nothing says that like isekai.
Yeah, and things are really weird, especially when it's for a game. Because, like, if they're just born in another world, it's different from them being born into a game or reborn into a game setting.
Yeah, but like when that scene kind of came across, I don't know what, but like it just struck me as like not animation level, like this is a movie or something. But like yeah, that scene happens where like that interaction between the two is going on, and I'm like, this seems like something out of a movie, man.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, like when you look at the isekai genre, it's one character gets transported, reincarnated, whatever, into the new world, right? Into another world. But there are hints, like yes, like in Konosuba, right? Kazuma starts to realize, oh, there's someone else that was already reincarnated here. Well, especially because he already meets Mitsurugi in one of the, I think it was season 1, where he steals the sword and all that. But he realizes, oh, there are other characters. So I think it's not that unusual to have multiple people in the isekai genre, that isekai world. Interesting thing here was, they knew each other in a previous life, kind of thing. So.
Another light novel that messes with this super hard. Like it's a big theme in the story. And hold on, let me just pull up J novel so I can remember what it's called. It's something Spirit Chronicles.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, like the entire there's like a huge plot point about this issue of
Seirei Gensoku Spirit
uh
Chronicles.
yeah. Suck.
Yeah, I just finished reading
Seirei
book 10.
Gensuki. There's Seirei Gensuki.
Yeah, I just finished reading book 10.
Yeah, there's that's a big part of that theme is that time and space don't operate like our concept of time and space isn't really applicable to reincarnation into another world. Like that was kind of the logic that they put in. I don't think they ever actually explained how that worked. Not yet, anyway.
I don't think so, but also it's also different because it's not just reincarnation; it's also summoning.
Yeah.
So there's 2 different ways people are coming, but
Yeah. I'm still trying to. They haven't explained it. I have no idea why the fuck it's like that. It's just very confusing, and it's meant to completely mess up the story, and I have no idea what the fuck's going on anymore. So excuse my language.
all right. Let's go to the next title. What is this? Princess Connect?
Redive. Jeez.
Redive.
Technically not finished yet, but who would have thought? Yeah, this is another anime by Games. So Sean should immediately realize it's based on a mobile game.
That can't be like the studio. That's just like the producer or something, right? The funder.
Well, Games, they make mobile apps.
They do, yeah. Oh, okay. You meant the game was made, not like the anime. Got. Sorry, my bad.
Yeah, I actual studio. I don't know if, who made it, but I watched episode 1 and I was like, this I could kind of see where this is going, and I was not that interested, despite being a very pretty episode 1. And then I kept hearing, "Oh, Princess Connect, the Sakuga. Oh, the Princess Connect, the Sakuga." So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to check this out around when episode 6 dropped. Back, watched the episodes I hadn't watched, right, for instance, episode 1, and yeah, this this show, the Sakuga, has no right to be that good. It's basically my conclusion, because the rest of it is just kind of like a fantasy comedy, screwing around. It's very Konosuba-like, right?
Mm-hmm.
My God, the Sakuga is beautiful.
Yeah, for like the couple of fights there. So like the kind of funny thing from my perspective is there was a game, an extra more different game that came out. Well, okay, sorry, let me start over. A different anime from this season came out that got me into a game that I used to play, known as Shadowverse. And the funny thing is, like, those characters have been really present in like the card sets that they've recently made. So like, not only have I seen them around the internet as like, authors who like to do the artwork, I see them in the gosh darn card game that I play. But like, then this thing comes out, and I'm like, all right, I kind of want to be more familiar with these characters, so I checked it out. And I do know it's called Redive, and like, it is seemingly like a second, not attempt, but like an extra more different story. Or so I couldn't quite put my finger on it because I don't know where it originally came from. Maybe it was just the app game, and this is the anime at this point. I have no clue. But it was a surprisingly fun show. Like, I was literally kind of like early into watching it, and I was, laughing along with some of the jokes, and like, the action scenes would come across, and I would literally be blown away. And it's like, oh, okay, this show, and then they do like some like humor, guild food humor stuff, and it's like, what is going on with this show? But I like it. It doesn't really have like an identity. I don't feel like it would be hard for me to actually give a proper synopsis of this show because it's got so many different things going on. You got like maybe this overarching story. You've got these random shenanigans with these characters that I feel like if you were exposed to maybe the app game or a prior story, you'd have a little tiny bit more familiarity with. But like, for the most part, it doesn't matter. It surprised me. Like, not every episode, but just a lot of the episodes. It's like, how's this show this good?
Can you or someone describe one episode of the show? I really don't have any idea what it is. Like, what is a typical episode of the show? What do they actually do?
Don't do a whole lot. Like, in episode 1, they all meet and they eventually decide to form a guild, right? So, yeah, their form an adventurers guild, and their shtick is to eat good food. So they take on quests and things just so they can go eat or make or obtain ingredients for great food. So typical middle of the episode, middle of the arc episode might be that there's something going on, get a quest, and then stumbling through their way through the quest, they manage to accomplish it, and they all come back together and have a meal together. There's some overall story in the background that's happening over the 13 episode arc. Some of the characters are not behaving in the way they should be. The main character is kind of generic hero guy, but he's lost his memory, and there's something going on about that. I mainly watched it for shenanigans and just the cool Sakuga moments. So,
I hate to say it, but I'm starting to think of like Ishizoku reviewers or whatever.
No.
Okay.
I would. I think Sakuga Boru had a couple of things up on Princess Connect Redive, so I'd go watch it. Vincent already posted in the chat there that this is based on the second game, which is why it's called Redive. Princess Connect was an app game, right?
Hmm.
Released by Cygames. I think it ended in 2016, which is when I think they announced the follow up, which is this one. This one was released in 2018, and I can't tell if it's finished or not. And I guess, Sean, to answer your other question, Cygames did create a division called Cygame Pictures. And so Manaria Friends, that spin off from Bahamut, Rage of Bahamut.
Yeah, Rage of
Their
Bahamut.
first one they actually made, which was in last year, 2019, and Princess Connect Redive is the current one that they're making. And interesting. They are credited with making Blade Runner Blackout 2022. The net animation from 3 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, like I've seen their, credits all over the place in the various like animes that I've watched games from, but like not ones that they particularly animated. Although that would kind of raise a question with me as to who's animating the Shadowverse anime that's running right now, if not Cygame Pictures. But that one is like a little cartoony kid show, so makes sense, I guess.
I mean, Shadowverse was made by Cygames, right?
Yeah, like directly. It's their like you know how like every developer, like, Elder Scrolls has one where they just have this game where it like encompasses all their properties, and it's like a card battle game that like literally borrows artwork from all their properties and just goes at it. That is Shadowverse. But it also has a story that's actually pretty interesting. Like it has if you do solo campaign mode, you get this like multiverse story thing, and that's what I thought the anime was going to be, and the anime turned out to be Yu-Gi-Oh! Darn it.
Oh, okay.
I didn't realize Cygames had its own studio. Like, it shows you how much attention I'm paying to anime
was just talking about,
these days. Yeah,
having
but
credits for.
I guess Cygames is more like a general media company at this point, like Aniplex or Kadokawa or something.
I guess so. So they're clearly making a ton of money. The animation studio for Shadowverse that's airing right now is Zex.
Yeah, like I just meant like that's purely their property, so it's kind of weird. But it is Yu-Gi-Oh!
Probably decided.
I think if they did try to do like Shadowverse the solo campaign story, it would be their own picture studio, but.
Yeah, they spent all their money on this.
No, they're probably still making money. So yeah, there's it's like actually hard to like. I mean, I would give this series like say an action tag for sure for the occasional like over the top combat, and comedy for of course its humor. But that's what I'm saying. It's really hard to pin this thing down because it just dabbles in a bit of like everything. You've got the episode of like the quirky stories like here and there. You've got like the characters who are anime trope intriguing. Like you have like the one like scary demon eye character who's like after the protagonist, I guess, for a very, very minor reason. But like again, it just adds to the humor, and there's a lot to see if you were to like watch this thing. I couldn't say any one reason you would like what is its selling point? Who knows? Humor. Action. Occasionally.
Yeah, pretty much humor and action.
All right.
I like Kokoro's beefy face.
One of the characters, and they didn't. I almost wish that they sold it a bit more, but it's like so. Charlotte, right? The main like one of the main characters. She kind of had one of those like, not Sakuga, but like I don't know what to technically call it because it's more of like a voice actor thing, like how a voice actor will make like a catchphrase for a character. And like at first it seemed like it was going to be the yabai desne thing. And I was like, at first it maybe like rubbed me the wrong way, but then it was actually kind of catchy and I was liking the character saying it. And then they like went on this route where it's like not the character anymore. I'm like, what is going on here? Like I thought that was totally going to be like the tagline of the character that they're going to play a couple times per episode. And then that ended up not being the case.
I almost didn't watch this show until I saw a YouTube clip with this girl going kiss, 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 and I was like, "What?
Oh, jeez.
What? What's going on?" And I got to see what's happening, and then I started watching it. And that's when I realized, okay, the show isn't that bad. Let's go ahead and go to the next title then. Kaguya-sama Love is War Season 2. Did anyone watch that besides myself? Oh, it looks like Albert.
Yeah, I watched it.
Yeah. I actually found this show to be very fun to watch in packs rather than week by week. So I watched the first 4, then I waited and then watched the next 4, and then just yesterday watched the last 4, and found it very enjoyable and very fun. Although it's a bunch of smaller stories within each episode, I felt that if I watched it week by week, it seemed like it made this, I don't know, it just, to me it seemed like the episode was shorter and I wasn't fulfilled. But by watching it in batches, I was okay with it and found it a little more fun and enjoyed it a lot more. So I don't know if that will help some others maybe, but once again, it continues off from the first season, so definitely you must watch the first season, even though it's a bunch of small stories that kind of seem at random. Near the end of the first season and the second season start, they kind of those few episodes do relate to each other, and it starts off kind of as your typical Love is War with the typical stories of them trying to who loses, Shirogane or Kaguya, and of course what's her name, Chitos, or that pink-haired girl?
Chica.
Chica, yeah, I'm sorry, Chica. I don't know why I was thinking Chitose, but Chica. Yeah, so it kind of continues on that trend, and it has this like false ending kind of thing as well. But of course it couldn't be because it happens at the very beginning. But as it goes on, I was surprised by the last half and how much character development they gave to some of the other people, especially Ishikawa, I think his name was.
Oh, I wasn't surprised. Me personally.
No, because to me I thought it was going to be mostly just always these, these two trying to get one over each other. I didn't really expect
that's like an important difference from season 1 to 2.
Yeah, but that's why I didn't really expect it or think that they were going to be targeting the other characters and caring. Maybe with Hamasaka or whatever her name was, because I found that she was starting to get super popular amongst the fan base. I thought they might do more of her because of that one episode, or Hayasaka. I'm sorry, I'm bad with names. Yeah, I was generally surprised with how it kind of got some dark, and I was a little on edge when I was watching that because I like I said, it took me, I didn't even expect it, and But after getting through that, I really enjoyed it and made me appreciate the show a little more. And but I still um, found that the things they did were still the typical fun and gags. But then I started noticing other things like some crossovers. Like they had this scene where it kind of took a place of like Charlie Brown kind of animation and stuff. So they're starting to use different things, and it kind of started making me think of kind of like Shaft, with Nisa Monogatari, where they had those weird animations every once in a while that would go through. So it was kind of fun to see some of that things going on, but overall, still just very enjoyable.
I gotta say that I really do enjoy season 2 a lot more than 1. I watched all of 1, and it was, humorous here and there. But I really did. Like, at first, I couldn't place my finger on it. It just felt like they upped the quality. And I think it was those moments where you did have more of a fleshed out story instead of just having getting introduced to the scene of what was transpiring that day or at that time. And I do think that you can really get, since the characters have been fleshed out, the show is just that much better. And while it might be a particularly unpopular opinion, I really like the second intro over the first one. People love that first intro. I never cared for it. But yeah, I think that the character style, like the art design, or just some of the moments, definitely they improved their craft on. But it was a lot more so that we escaped the simple mind games of the first season, and we did get into character development, and I think it was a really good move on their part. I mean, I don't know how much of that was because I don't know, is this thing based off something or another? Because I would almost think that while it could be, with the difference in direction from season 1 to 2, it might not be.
There's a manga.
Yeah.
So
unless the manga went that way, where it was just a bunch of gags at first, then it was fleshed out, and the anime just got the benefit there too. But
I don't know. I haven't read the manga. I kind of want to, but I just didn't want to spoil myself for this show. But some of those heartfelt moments, or those moments where they were trying to hit you, I thought they did somewhat well, especially the very last episode with her phone. Oh, I felt so much pain for her. I was like, I kind of I know how you feel, because although it may not be pictures for me, when my phone broke and I knew I had a game on there that I didn't save the data for, and I was gonna have to start all over. It felt terrible, and I kind of I felt for her and what she was kind of going through, and it was fun and it was good because they kind of gave you that kind of relatable thing that you would know, this has happened to me before, and to see her going through those emotions. But yeah, overall, the second season really upped it, and I thought they did really well as well. What about you, Albert? What do you think?
Yeah, I'm kind of with Nick. I really did enjoy the second season quite a bit. I think the additional characters really brought a different dynamic that was interesting, and some of the background stories, just out the characters, and I felt like the very episode 12. Obviously, the manga is still ongoing, and there's the popularity of this. I'm assuming at some point, season 3 will be greenlit. At this point, it seems like the battle between Kaguya and OreAni, the president. I can't remember if they actually call him like Miyuki in the subtitles or not, but at this point that's kind of becoming more irrelevant. I'm just enjoying some of the character interactions versus who's trying to one up the other and get the confession out of them. So, yeah, I think overall, if you like season 1, you should like season 2, and possibly even more than season 1. Great soundtrack, the director and all the staff that made this great. Season 1, the director, the writer, the head music guy, music director, they all came back for season 2. Yeah, it's fantastic. OP. What's up?
Yeah, I forgot to even bring up like the Miko Ino character introduction, because like at first that story was kind of meh, but then I really did like the dynamic they ended up like how they worked her into expanding upon the comedy in the end, and even like the weird like what 2-3 episode arc we had for like the track and field day stuff. Like I didn't really expect to see his like his father as a character with as great of a scene as he had the one time.
His father's such a troll. He's
But
such a bastard.
yeah, like towards the end of season 2, like I don't know, like I can't recommend season 1 just because of season 2. Like I wouldn't go that far, but I really did enjoy season 2, particularly over 1. But like you wouldn't have like there are some series where I kind of hated season 1 but did end up like loving season 2. Steins Gate and say Mob Psycho. I'm sorry, it might be an unpopular opinion, but it's a really fun like it. I don't know if I could like say that this would be like a gateway show for people or not, but I think it's a worthwhile if you're any level of fan just to kind of see if it's something if this is the kind of humor that you like.
So, are there any titles that anyone wants to cover before we end that we haven't discussed, or?
Can we talk about what's going on in the next season? Like I'm almost too afraid to look. Is everything canceled? I know that like Sakuga heads are really into some upcoming thing called Decadence, which is a show from Yuzuru Tachikawa, who's the guy who did Death Parade and Mob Psycho 100. Aside from that, I really don't know what's coming up.
So the only thing I've noticed and I thought was interesting was that Netflix has this movie called A Whisker Away. It just came out.
Is that the cat one?
Yeah, I think so. With the mask that turns a girl into a cat or something like that. I haven't watched it myself. I saw a trailer for it. But
the one that I'm anticipating is season 2 of ReZero.
That was supposed to be like this season?
It was, yeah. It got delayed from spring and it's going to be summer now.
And then you got Pocket Monsters 2019. Yeah.
Okay, so hey, before we get too far, I think there is one worthwhile show to bring up before we continue. Because I don't believe Tank didn't pull it up. Why are we not talking about Kukushigoto?
Ooh.
What?
What? Because I almost thought maybe you did the topic first, but someone just confirmed that you never talked about Kukushigoto.
I don't even know what Kukushigoto is.
Really?
What?
Is that one that looks like a Shaft anime, but then it's not?
Yeah.
Yeah, manga author as a father who's like trying to hide his craft from his daughter.
Oh.
Did you like forget and not watch the show?
I guess so, because I didn't really go to Funimation except for Love Is War, and that one I did in batches, like I said. So I just barely
Oh,
got on
that
yesterday
explains.
to watch Kaguya, because Funimation does. I don't really like their subtitles too much now. So like, I've been going mostly to Crunchyroll or High Dive.
You should cover everything.
I forgot about it. So what it? Go ahead and talk about it if you guys want, but I forgot about it.
So Kakushigoto was kind of this like not like a sleeper hit for me, but like something kind of like that, where I was just blown away by how good it was. It as we kind of discussed in the early episode and just now, it's literally about a father who is maintaining a manga known as Tights, which is apparently about adult like dirty humor jokes, but like it catches on with like the weirdest audiences. And he's really embarrassed to be like dabbling in this craft. Like he doesn't want his like 10-year-old, much less like 18-year-old daughter knowing that he's writing this comic book that employs this kind of raunchy humor. So he's trying his best at all times to just totally withhold from her that he is a mangaka and he is, you know, like a businessman. He's got a desk job and he's always gone for it. And while the series is over about this, you know, like the secret, like Kakushigoto is kind of getting at like that secretness. Um, you are introduced to the story that not only employs humor but like drama, because almost at the end of every episode, they flash forward most the meat and potatoes of the show, like 20 minutes worth of its content is about when Hime, his daughter, is about 10, and the very antics that were going on at the time. But at the end of every episode, they started covering when she was 18, and you were given a tidbit at a time of this new expansion to the story that seems like even more, I don't want to say dramatic, but like sad, because throughout the whole story, you're kind of left wondering what is going on with their family structure, because it's obviously the father and the daughter, and the mother is missing from the picture, but like the audience is like on a journey to discover what's that about. We're never told why. You know, maybe the secret at the end has to do with that. And it was this really interesting way to tell a story, as I was kind of, you know, like saying, just to watch every week, to get the antics, to get the humor, and then to unravel a little bit more about like what's going on when she's much older, was just like I looked forward to it every week. I It was funny. It like had rom-com drama that was like more mature than you typically get from series, because like this is like, you know, like when you have rom-coms amongst like high schoolers, there's this typical humor you get. But when like you got rom-com elements about like adults kind of misreading advances, it's even funnier. And that was absolutely employed in this series. And then you would get those like those moments where like, you know, he starts like going over what their family is like since, you know, the mom is out of the picture, and then you're hit with this like somberness. There's just a lot going on with the series, and I loved it.
Yeah, I love this accidental love triangle that unbeknownst to him.
Yeah. And it's totally like Araragi as a father, so that was also just a further selling point. I know I said it once before, but I'll say it again.
Mm-hmm. To me, I like this series the best so far in this season, simply because it was very consistent, and I like the way it was drawn. The only thing I didn't like about was the ending. Last episode to me was completely fell apart. They to the point of they just felt cram everything in to rush it to get to the episode 12 and call it a day. They could have easily turned into episode 13 and just stretch out the last episode content into 2 episodes for the better flow.
Mm-hmm.
Since the first 11 episode, it was very very methodical, steady pace. There was no sense of a rushing to get to the ending point, but all of a sudden episode 12 happens and just completely turns upside down. It's just as if they forgot that they only had a 12 episode to work on this series instead of 13, and realized that they have to finish the series somehow and just cram everything in such a pace that I think it really ruins or left a bitter taste to my ends.
See, I won't go for a spoiler because I hope that people will go check this one out. So I'm not going to say like what was revealed, but like the series really did have that overarching like, what is their family structure? How is he related to these like, other family members that sometimes crop up in the story? But like one of the things was like because this series tended to rely on that misunderstanding humor, which is kind of common in a few series now. I could like name a few. But like since misunderstandings was so prevalent in as the humor element of this whole series, I was almost wondering if they're going to try to hit that with the audience. Like, we could almost go, "Oh gosh, how do you misunderstand this?" Or like sometimes you can almost wonder like how the characters are like continuing two different stories, but like their comments further their own confusion, and the audience is of course keyed in, but the character is not. I almost thought they might be trying to do that to us with that little ending bit, but like I still like what they did instead. Like I enjoy it. Because I think it would have been like kind of terrible if they just had this like weird here was the misunderstanding and the audience was part of it this time. Like that was kind of cool, but the story it eventually evolved into instead. Like so my gut feeling was wrong, and I did enjoy what they did. Like it was kind of meh, but still good.
All right. So, we're going to go to our thank you for watching OreAni. That was the spring lineup. What was the thing you were talking about, Sean?
The thing I was talking about? What?
Before we started talking about Kushi.
I was asking, like, what's coming up in the next season? Was there something else?
Oh,
I mentioned a show called Decadence that is upcoming.
I don't know about that. It says on. I was reading a little bit on that, and it sounds like Kadokawa's gonna air the first episode on YouTube or premiere early on the YouTube channel. I don't know if it'll be translated or what's going on with that. I went to their YouTube thing. I didn't see anything, so I don't know what's going on. But maybe this website I'm reading is wrong. But it kind of seems like a smaller lineup than usual. So
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
yeah, just a lot of continuing shows. Shokugeki no Shoma, Sword Art Online.
Well, the Shokugeki was supposed to be this season. It's one of the ones that got delayed.
Railgun. Seems to be a lot of these.
Railgun finished. That it was delayed a little bit, but it finished this season. Or at least Railgun T. I don't know if a new story is starting up or not. They tend to do that a lot.
It says it's still going, so I don't know. Because it says they're on episode 16, but there's supposed to be 25 episodes for this third
Oh,
season.
okay.
So it's another core.
Oh, geez.
So I don't know. I haven't looked too much into this except for just right now, so I don't know what's going to be good, what's going to be bad. There's this weird show called Fruit Baskets that's continuing on. Appare Ranman. I know that was a weird show that started this.
Did they cancel that or delay
It got delayed. Yeah, it got delayed. I don't know. I haven't heard of it being actually canceled. I think it's just delayed, but if it is canceled, I'm sorry.
I don't know.
Yeah,
It's
I
weird.
saw one episode of it and it seemed kind of crappy, so whatever.
I'm worried about the Breakwater Club one.
On this one, it shows episode 4 is going to be airing in 25 days, according to this website. So I don't know. There's the so yeah, we'll see how things go. I don't know about movies. I think there's something about
Movies, huh?
I don't
There's
But for YouTube, I guess we'll say good night, goodbye, have fun. If you ever want to talk with us or join us in these discussions, drop a comment. We can give you a link to our anime Discord for anime talk.
When is the next episode for us?
I don't know when we're going to do the next one. I don't know how many episodes are what we're going to be like, but I guess it'll probably be mid-July.
Cool.
Probably the third Sunday. We'll see about timing because I think Nick says he's got a new time. Or
I mean, I could try to make these days work at the same time. I just have to wake up early.
so I actually wasn't expecting you. I put this whole big thing at the beginning, thinking you were gone forever. But other than that, yeah.
Anime plot twist 2020. It's real.
Have fun. I don't know. Maybe I might start something with some of us novel readers. See if we can get some talk about that because I've been starting to see a few new YouTube videos talking about light novels. So maybe we can get our own little thing going on. But other than that, thank you for watching and goodbye.
bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye.